Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Asian Conference cordially welcomes all our guests at today's lecture entitled Best River Basin Management Practices with special reference to conservation and rejuvenation of the GBM Basin. Headquartered in Shillong, Meghalaya, the Asian Conference works on a vision for a stable and prosperous Asia. The Natural Allies in Development and Interdependence, or the Nadi Conversation, which is a flagship initiative, primarily focuses on the Ganga Brahmaputra Meghna Basin. And the platform further ideates in dealing with specific cases of cross learning between our river basin and the others. And our effort has been to integrate, converge, and connect ideas with experts of our field and lectures by experts, practitioners, and relevant stakeholders from various disciplines discussing and dealing with the sustainability aspect of the various issues faced. Our guest for this afternoon is Professor Rabindra Kumar Sinha from Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University, Katra, Jammu and Kashmir. Professor Rabindra Kumar Sinha has been the Vice Chancellor of Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University. He is an internationally acclaimed scientist and a nature conservationist, and has also held the position of the Dean of the School of Earth and Biological and Environmental Sciences at the Central University of Bihar for 2 years. He has also successfully completed over 20 nationally and internationally funded research projects on environmental issues, especially on River Ganga and the Ganges River dolphin and atmospheric pollution. He has delivered more than 180 plenary lectures, attended conferences, and chaired scientific sessions in India and abroad, including UK, France, Austria, the Netherlands, Japan, China, Hong Kong, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, to name a few. And he is popularly known as the Dolphin Man of India. We welcome you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I would like to request our Executive Director, Mr. Sabyasachi Datta, to please give the welcome note. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon and warm welcome to all our viewers. And I have this privilege and opportunity to welcome Dr. Ravindra Kumar Sinha, a very, very well known name in the field of conservation. Everybody knows your work on the dolphins and many other aspects of conservation, riverine conservation, river basin management. And I take this opportunity to express our great sense of appreciation to you for taking the time to come on board today, Professor Sinha, to give this lecture on best basin management practices. Just a word of introduction or setting the context, if I may, is that the Asian confluence views our entire Asian neighborhood, particularly the region of the Brahmaputra Meghna Basin, and further extending to other basins, as a water linked and idea linked region. Uh, if we look at it, if we look at the rivers right from the Indus to the Mekong, which is South and Southeast Asia, it is a one basin after the other. A contiguity of basins are there. The mountains are in the top in the north, and we are basically related to each other because we share or we are next to each other in terms of our river basins. River is the baseline for the civilization. And this Nadi dialogue, this Nadi conversation that today we are having with you, the Nadi lecture, as well as the Nadi conferences which happen, is a platform by the think tank, strategic, civil society community, along with academia, along with policymakers, to have a platform where the best practices of are shared, ecological and
नेटवर्क गड़बड़ रहा है क्या?
Dr. Sinha.
So may I start now?
Yes, over to you, Dr. Sinha. Over to you.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
I
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I will use a PowerPoint presentation, and with that I
yes,
will talk. I will be discussing.
sure.
So slide. Slide. ये- एक मिनट, शेर ही है सही से। हम्म? यहीं से कर लो, हाँ। बस ये शो नहीं हो रहा, ये हमको नहीं जाएगा, शो नहीं हो रहा। अच्छा, फिर कैसे तो करूँ? शेयर स्क्रीन ना। ये आ रही है ना? अब देखिए, अब कुछ चीज़ शेयर हो रही। Is it visible to you? Hello?
Yes, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay, 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 okay.
But perhaps you can do a slide share so that the full screen shows the full slide.
Yes, yes, that I will do. That I will
Yeah.
do. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, dear friends and scientific community from the various parts of India, so I welcome you all on my today's lecture on best river basin management practices with a special reference to conservation and rejuvenation of the Ganga Brahmaputra Meghna Basin. We all know that Himalaya is known as water tower of Asia because it has the largest concentration of glaciers outside the polar caps, means Arctic and Antarctic. So after Antarctic and Arctic, Himalaya is has the largest concentration of glaciers. And this includes even Khumbu Glacier on Everest, the highest glacier in the world. Because of this, the Himalayas are often dubbed as the third pole, and Himalayan glacier coverage is 33,000 square kilometer. And we all know the river ecosystems. So, like rivers are not simply a linear channels. Rivers are three-dimensional dynamic systems dependent on longitudinal, lateral, and vertical transfer of material, energy, and biota. The basic components of rivers are visible on the screen because the important components are the flow, geomorphology, erosion sediments, water, organisms, and then definitely nutrients and vegetation, climate, geology, like that. At the same time, floodplains of the rivers are very, very important because, like bark of a tree, floodplains plays the same role. And if we kill the floodplains, definitely the river will die. Because most of the processes that drive life in rivers happen around their edges. Just as the sap flow up through the outermost ring of tree, not through its center, the lifeblood of a river ebbs and flows on its floodplain. And the vegetation growing there is not mere decoration. It is a river's roots and leaves. So here is now coming to the this is Mount Everest and Ganges Brahmaputra Meghna River Basin is a transboundary river basin with a total area of just over 1.7 million kilometers square, distributed among India, China, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan. And Nepal is located entirely in the Ganges River Basin, and Bhutan is located entirely in the Brahmaputra River Basin. The Ganges Brahmaputra Meghna River system is the third largest freshwater outlet of the world's ocean, being exceeded only by Amazon and Congo River systems. So this is the diagram. You can see the Himalayas, and as Mr. Datta was saying, right from Indus to Mekong. So northern side also in China, the Himalayas supplies water through the Yangtze rivers. Western side, you can see the Indus and Amudarya. Then
Just a short interruption, Professor. Your slides are not changing. It's there in the initial slide itself for some reason.
so the slides are not changing. Oh,
No.
okay. Let me see. क्या हो रहा है?
Yeah, now I can see some change, but
एक मिनट
if you can go to slide mode, that will be better, I think.
Okay, slides.
Slide show mode,
Slides mode होगा.
स्लाइड्स हट रहा है वीडियो
स्लाइड शो तो वही है.
नहीं स्लाइड शो अभी किया था ना उसमें नहीं हो रहा शो
स्लाइड शो में नहीं हो रहा है. नहीं, स्लाइड शो से ही होगा. देखो इसको.
पहले शो नहीं हो रही इनके
वहाँ नहीं हो रही ना, वहाँ स्लाइड चलने लगी.
ऐसे इनको ऐसे चल रही है सर ऐसे अगर मूव करते हैं तो
ऐसा चल रही है.
हाँ,
ऐसा दिख
चल
रहा
रही
है आपको?
ऐसे चल रहा है. हाँ,
ऐसे चल रहा है.
ऐसे ही कर.
हाँ, ऐसे चल रहा है.
फुल में नहीं चलेगा आपका.
ओके.
तो यहीं से करी चलो इससे
फुल में नहीं चलेगा.
हैं?
फुल में प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है
फुल में प्रॉब्लम है.
प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. क्यों हो रहा है? एनीवे.
इसी से चलाएंगे.
Now, this is the Ganges Brahmaputra Meghna River Basin, and I am coming to first Ganga Basin especially, and Ganga Basin is the largest river basin in India and covers about 26% of our country land mass. This is the slide which shows the origin of Ganga is under the name of Bhagirathi is from Gomukh Glacier, and another tributary is Alaknanda, which originates at Bhagirath, Kharak Glacier and Satopant Glacier. So the from Gomukh the Bhagirathi river traverses through Gangotri, and from Bhagirath Kharak Glacier, Alaknanda traverses through Badrinath, and both the tributaries, after traveling for about 200 kilometers, they join together at Deoprayag, where it attains the name of Ganga. So here is the picture of Gomukh Glacier at 4,100 meter above sea level, and Gangotri, it is under the Gangotri glacier system, and this system is a cluster of many glaciers comprising the main Gangotri glacier. This picture is about the origin point of Brahmaputra. So recently, in 2011, the Chinese scientists, they established the origin point of Brahmaputra is the Angsi Glacier. So here is Angsi Glacier, and it is southeast of Mansarovar Lake, and at the altitude of 5,300, almost 20 meters. This is the entire Brahmaputra basin. So Yarlung Sangpo is the name in Tibet part of China, and Siang in Arunachal, Brahmaputra in Assam, Jamuna in Bangladesh. And this is the picture of Meghna Basin, which is again a transboundary river shared by India and Bangladesh with a total area of 82,000 kilometers square, of which 57% area is in India and 43% is in Bangladesh. So Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna Basin, headwaters of both Ganges rivers and Brahmaputra, originate in Himalayan mountain range, but Meghna is not from the Himalayan range, but definitely eastern part of the Himalayas, lower Himalayas. The Ganges river flows southward into India. Brahmaputra river flows east through the southern part of China and then flows south, and then turns southwest and then enters Assam and finally flows to Bangladesh, where it is called Jamuna, and it joins with the river Padma, because river Ganges in Bangladesh is known as river Padma. And finally, both Jamuna and Padma flows together and it joins with Meghna and it is discharged into Bay of Bengal under the name of Lower Meghna. Friends, we all know that tributaries are also very important by themselves in social, economic, and political terms, as well as in terms of water availability and use. So many of the tributaries of GBM basin are transboundary, and that is why it is very difficult to consider Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna basin as one system. हाँ सर छोड़ दो ना
इससे होगा
इससे क्या हो रहा है इससे कैसे होगा ऊपर जा रहा है इससे फिर नीचे आ रहा है क्यों नहीं होगा
यही वो वही की प्रेस करिए
नहीं कर रहा है क्या कर रहे हो तो देखते हैं स्लाइड कितना है उससे क्या मतलब है रुको हो गया तो नहीं चलेगा काम नहीं करेगा छोड़ो इससे चल रहा था कि नहीं चल रहा था चल तो रहा था इससे चल रहा है So friends, again I would like to emphasize here that Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna basin covers only 1.2% of the world's land mass, where more than 10% of world's population is living. So you can imagine the density compared to average density of the world. Here is almost 100%. I mean, 10 more than 100% density is here. And Ganges basin, the main Ganges river is combination of Alaknanda and Bhagirathi. As I told you, that it attains name Ganga at Deoprayag, and then it passes through different 5 states of India, and finally joins Bay of Bengal under the name of Hooghly. Brahmaputra river originates on the northern slope of Himalayas in China, and then it travels down to Bay of Bengal. Meghna Basin, again, in India we call, there are many large number of tributaries, but main tributary is Barak River, and Barak when enters into Bangladesh near Silhat, it is called Meghna. Actually, two main tributaries, Suma and Kusiara, they join together, and this is called Meghna. So the total length of the river is about 930 kilometer, and it is a meandering channel. But in several reaches, especially where small tributaries contribute sediment, braiding is evident with sand islands bifurcating the river into two or more channels. South Himalayan countries, that is India, Bhutan, and Nepal. The collaboration between Bhutan and India provides an excellent example as to how transboundary water bodies can be used as an engine for economic growth or development of an impoverished region with concomitant benefits to each country. Bhutan realized some time ago that one of its main natural resources is water, and if the country is to develop economically, it must wisely and efficiently develop its water resources. Had India and Nepal approached jointly the planning and management of transboundary rivers that flow from Nepal to India in a positive and constructive spirit, the benefits of the two countries in terms of regional development, poverty alleviation, and improvements in the quality of life of the people of the region most certainly would have been very substantial. In most Asian transboundary rivers, including GBM, agreements have been difficult to negotiate between the co-basin countries because of factors like historical mistrust and rivalries, asymmetrical power relationships, short-term requirements of the national political parties as opposed to long-term national interests. All these constraints have seriously hampered the development of mutually beneficial projects and activities between countries like India and Nepal and India and Bangladesh. In contrast to fossil fuels or minerals, if water is not used for hydropower generation or agricultural production, the potential benefits are gone forever. They can never be recovered. The GBM basin provides excellent examples of very substantial benefits that can be obtained by the countries when they decide to collaborate with each other. GBM river carry an enormous amount of sediment load from the mountains to the plains, which compound the adverse effects of floods. The Kosi and some tributaries of Brahmaputra are particularly notable in this regard. Good storage schemes for river water are essential for economic and social development of this region. These potential sites provide the opportunity to construct dams for storing excess water in the Himalayas for a variety of downstream usage. Hence, by definition, they are multi-purpose in nature, providing benefits beyond national borders in such areas as power generation, flood moderation, dry season flow augmentation, irrigation, and navigation. The hydropower potential of these reservoir sites is the most significant aspect of water development in the GBM basin. The geographically interlinked character of the major rivers in the GBM region warrants an integrated regional approach to the care and management of the catchments. Sound basin-wide catchment management is an essential long-term strategy to combat the threat of floods and erosion and to preserve the ecosystem. The sediment load in the rivers which is largely the consequence of geomorphic processes in the upper catchment areas, tends to increase with the progressive removal of vegetative cover on slopes. We all are aware that how much deforestation has taken place in the catchment area of these rivers in Himalayas. And then soil conservation and reforestation in the upper catchments of Nepal and India and also within Bangladesh would help it substantially reducing sedimentation. Floods have become an annual feature in the Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna plains of India. Of the total estimated flood-prone area in India is about 68%. 68% lies in the GBM states, mostly in Assam, West Bengal, Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh. The Ganges in northern India, which receives water from northern tributaries originating in Himalayas, has a high flood damage, potentially, especially in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Likewise, the Brahmaputra and the Barak headwaters of Meghna drain regions of very heavy rainfall and produce flood from overbank spilling and drainage congestion in the northeastern India. Bangladesh, being the lowest riparian, bears the brunt of flooding in the GBM region. Even in a normal year, up to 30% of country is flooded and up to about 80% of the land area is considered flood prone. With respect to dam construction in the Himalayas, which is a dynamic tectonic region, the seismicity issue deserves serious consideration. The dam sites, which are generally remote and inaccessible, would witness the development of transport routes and other infrastructure that would open up the area and in turn foster mobility, market access, and all-round development. Properly planned, such developments could be harbinger of economic growth, social change, and improvement of quality of life. A number of options and opportunities exist for regional collaborative efforts in such sectors as hydropower development, flood management, dry season flow augmentation, and water sharing, water quality improvement, navigation, and catchment or watershed management. So policy environment in the region has to be favorable for such cooperation, requiring mutual confidence building measures. The recurrent floods in GBM region demand a regional approach, requiring cooperation among all the co-basin countries. Both India and Bangladesh have undertaken certain in-country measures for flood mitigation during the past 4 decades. These include embankments, river training, and channel drainage improvement. Upstream storage reservoirs can play a vital role in flood management. Multi-purpose reservoirs on the Ganges and Brahmaputra system with provision for a dedicated flood cushion and well-planned reservoir operation and regulation instructions will be beneficial in moderating floods in northern, eastern, and northeastern India, especially Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, and Assam, as well as in Bangladesh. Water quality is another aspect because deterioration of both surface and groundwater quality is now a matter of serious concern in all the GBM countries. The monitoring of water quality in the GBM rivers is not as extensive as it should be, except in case of the Ganges in India and Budhi Ganga in Bangladesh. At the regional level, they should also coordinate their actions to deal with transboundary transmission of pollution and evolve a mechanism for real-time water quality data exchange, which could then lead to efficient water quality management. Friends, at this point, I would like to just let you know that a program called SAWAN, SAWAN, South Asian Water Analysis Network, was started between India, Nepal, and India, Bangladesh, way back 2002, and it was the initiative of government of United States of America, It lasted for 3 years. I was also one of the partners in that program, and we did this transboundary monitoring of water quality for 3 years. But unfortunately, it could not continue after that. So I think such exercise is very much important so that we can share with each other what we are receiving, what we are giving to others, like that. Flow augmentation is also a very, very important and water sharing. So the lean season flows of Ganga, Brahmaputra, Meghna rivers, especially the Ganges, are inadequate to meet the combined needs of GBM countries. The Ganges Water Sharing Treaty of 1996 includes a provision for the two governments to cooperate with each other in finding a solution to the long-term problem of augmenting the flow of Ganga and Ganges during the dry season. Friends, I think it is not an issue of basically sharing of water, it is the issue of availability of water. What I could know during 1996, this agreement, that the agreement between the two countries to share water of Ganga, the quantum which was to be shared was not available at Farakka. So this way we need to first augment the flow, increase the flow, and to increase the flow, we have to take Nepal into confidence and for help. So finding a solution to the long-term problem augmenting the flows of Ganges during the dry season, a high favorable project from this perspective is the Saptakosi High Dam in Nepal, the revived third phase of original Kosi project. The Kosi Dam will have a significant storage capacity that should provide both North Bihar, India and Bangladesh with flood cushion and augment dry season flows after meeting Nepal's full irrigation requirement. One other option for augmenting dry season flows could be proposed Suncoast Dam in Bhutan with a power generating potential of 4,000 megawatt. Water stored behind the dam could be released into a canal designed to provide a two-stage link to the Tista and Mahananda barrages in West Bengal. Augmentation of about 340 meter cube per second is expected, a part of which could supplement the water needs of the two Tista barrages, one in West Bengal and another in Bangladesh, while another part would reach Ganges at Farakka. The Ganges Treaty of 1996 between India and Bangladesh for water sharing agreement with regard to other common rivers. One river which has received priority in water sharing negotiations has been the Tista, especially because the lean season flows are inadequate to meet the requirements of both the countries. Each country has constructed a barrage on the river. Although some ad hoc water sharing ratios were proposed earlier, it is necessary to examine seriously the option for Tista flow augmentation. Another issue is the inland navigation. The Ganges, Brahmaputra, Meghna, and their principal tributaries had served as major arteries of trade and commerce for centuries. However, in recent years, their importance has diminished due to various factors. For landlocked Nepal, Bhutan, and northeastern India, an inland water outlet to the sea is of great significance. The establishment of links with the inland water transport networks of India and Bangladesh would provide Nepal access to Kolkata and Mongla in Bangladesh ports. Potential exists for the development of water transport in Nepal in all the three major rivers, Karnali, Gandak, and Kosi, which are tributaries of Ganges. So construction of high dams of these rivers in Nepal could improve navigability in these channels. Karnali, which is known as Ghagra in India, has maximum potential for navigation from the Indo-Nepalese border to the confluence with the Ganges. Friends, I got opportunity to work on Karnali almost 30 years ago, and there I realized that Karnali is a very very important, has maximum flow in Ganga Basin. It originates almost near Mansarovar, and another river Gandak, which is called Narayani in Nepal, or some people call Gandaki also. So this river is an important waterway serving central Nepal and has the navigation potential to serve eastern Uttar Pradesh and northwestern Bihar in India if it is linked with the India's national waterway number one, the Ganges, running from Allahabad to Haldia below Kolkata. The Brahmaputra between Sadia and Dhubri has been designated as national waterway number two, and similarly, river Gandak from its confluence with Ganga to border of Nepal is national waterway 37, and the Ghagra from its confluence with Ganga to border of Nepal is national waterway 40. Now coming to conservation and rejuvenation. So ecological conservation is primarily concerned with preventing further loss to ecosystems. So here we should uh, try to differentiate between the conservation and rejuvenation. So conservation is concerned with the preventing further loss to ecosystem. Ecological rejuvenation or restoration focuses on repairing the damage caused by human activities to natural ecosystems and seeks to return them to an earlier state or to another state that is closely related to one unaltered by human activities. However, here I would like to emphasize that it is not possible to rejuvenate any river 100% due to many ecological, social, legal, and economic situation prevailing in that part of the country or in that country. So thus the river rejuvenation broadly calls for optimal fresh water flow through the river system during different seasons. The rejuvenation of a river is best achieved by ensuring environmental flow in the river. Humans have tamed rivers for transportation, water supply, flood control, agriculture, and power generation since time immemorial. There is widespread concern for conservation and restoration of healthy river ecosystems, which were ecologically degraded and lost biological diversity resulting from river exploitation. The natural flow of a river varies on time scales of hours, days, seasons, years, and longer. So, river rejuvenation is an effort aimed at restoring poor health of overexploited and polluted rivers depending on the levels of deterioration. River rejuvenation aims at a new sustainable healthy river ecosystem. This can also be achieved by restoring the river health back to an accepted historical state of river. So what we need to do for the rejuvenation of a river? So that is restoration of habitats, restoration of flow regime, restoration of riparian and floodplain areas, prevention of pollution, and restoration of catchments. Friends, here I would like to emphasize that the biggest challenge is to maintain the environmental flow in all rivers and their tributaries in GBM basin. For simple reason, we are exploiting or abstracting too much water from all these rivers. At the same time, since rain is very seasonal and river used to get recharge even from groundwater, and groundwater used to get recharged through wetlands, and the GBM basin had thousands of wetlands. Unfortunately, in last several decades, most of the wetlands have lost their existence, and this has resulted in the storage of water in the floodplains through wetlands is not now available, and that water used to percolate, recharge groundwater, and during leanest season, which is January, February, March, especially for the GBM basin, when there is no rain and no melting of snow, so river used to get recharged through the groundwater, and that groundwater ultimate source was wetlands. So this is another very important point which should be emphasized. Now, why we need rejuvenation to maintain the ecological integrity? And what is the ecological integrity? The goal of conserving ecological integrity is best addressed by maintaining or restoring the diversity of genes, species, and communities native to the region. It is simply consistent with the vision of integrity, which is wholeness. If parts are missing, the ecosystem is not whole. To a great extent, it means holistic and integrated approaches to sustainable development, which will guide humanity to live in harmony with nature, to restore the health and integrity of the ecosystem. Ecological integrity promotes the maintenance of ecosystem services for human well-being and poverty alleviation. Now, environmental flows and water management. Due to the very seasonal nature of rainfall in India, tropical monsoon followed by a dry season, a very large number of storage dams, barrages, and river diversions have been constructed to regulate river flows, to supply water for domestic use, irrigation, industrial demand, hydropower generation, and to control floods. To control floods, floodplains have been isolated by embankments along rivers at many places. Meanwhile, various activities continue to increase sediment load of the rivers. Here, again, I would like to emphasize that with construction of embankments, we have constricted the flow of river, and that is also resulting in floods and flood havocs. So there is one statistics available that during 1950s, hardly 125-kilometer long embankments was available in the Ganges, which grew to 3,500 by 1980s. But at the same time, during 1950s, flood-prone area in Ganges Basin was 25 lakh hectare, which increased to 68 lakh hectare by 1980s. This means as we constructed more and more embankments, flood-prone area increased. So that is another issue. We have to keep a balance how to control flood and at the same time how to save our river integrity. In addition, because of urbanization, industrialization, and agricultural intensification, rivers receive large discharges of untreated or partially treated domestic and industrial effluents, which includes even fertilizers and pesticides also from the agricultural land. So out of the 30 world river basins identified as global level priorities for the protection of aquatic biodiversity, 9 are in India, and it includes Ganges Brahmaputra also. And we are singled out due to their extensive and continuing development. And flows are needed for maintaining the river regime, making it possible for the river to purify itself, sustaining aquatic life and vegetation, recharging groundwater, supporting livelihoods, facilitating navigation, preserving estuarine conditions, preventing the incursions of salinity, and enabling the river to play its role in the cultural and spiritual lives of the people. We all are aware how the sea water is ingressing in Sundarbans area, both in India and Bangladesh, and that can be reduced only through flow of more and more fresh water to the estuarine zone. For religious purposes also, a certain minimum depth of flow of good water quality have to be maintained, particularly during the lean season. Agriculture is the largest user of water in India. The economy of the country is dependent on agriculture to a large extent. Hence, to meet crop water demand when monsoon rains are inadequate or in the non-monsoon season, irrigation is necessary. So, irrigated agriculture aims at food security, drought protection, and employment generation. In view of the increasing population and increasing food requirement, water diversion for irrigation assumes high priority. In order to meet growing demands in many places in country, groundwater is being overexploited in the absence of adequate surface water sources, as I told you about the wetlands. As a result of falling groundwater tables, the base flow in rivers has decreased over the years, and some of the erstwhile perennial rivers reaches have become dry during part of non-monsoon season. Another issue is the wastewater disposal. So untreated domestic wastewater from urban and rural areas is often directly discharged to the rivers. Capacity to treat sewage is small compared to the volume of sewage generated. This adversely affects the river system. Conservation and restoration of rivers has been limited to cleaning of rivers by legally enforcing the treatment of industrial effluents. The Ganga Action Plan, Phase 1, was launched in 1985 to improve water quality of River Ganga and was completed in March 2000. Ganga Action Plan Phase 2 was approved in stages from 1993 onwards and included tributaries of River Ganga, namely Jamuna, Gomti, Damodar, Mahananda, etc. So pollution abatement works undertaken include interception and diversion of raw sewage, setting up of sewage treatment plants, creation of low-cost sanitation facilities, setting up of electric and improved wood cremation, and riverfront development. But again, it has not been proved to be a very successful. So probably we need to go long time and in a more dedicated manner, taking the society into confidence, because such a vast river and people are discharging so many things at so many places. And there is growing interest in environmental flow. But as we know, the Ganga flow data is classified and it has become a very difficult, challenging job how to get the data and for any further action like development of any plan program, how to increase this. So this so it desires for sustainable development and improvement in ecological condition in many large rivers. This requires multi-pronged approach to address all issues raised, a vigorous program to strengthen data networks, develop habitat requirements of keystone species, develop hydrology ecology relations, and determine ecosystem services. The environmental flow concept help us in deciding the sustainable limits to river water resource development. Localized river rejuvenation is a cost-effective approach, and more importantly, local water management, harvesting, and recharging groundwater where it falls can only be done through community participation. The planners and policymakers should necessarily integrate the concept of environmental flow with water resources development strategy. The government too realizes that all developments, including raising the health index of the people, depend on availability of quality water. What should be the steps and what are the steps for river rejuvenation? So one is the identification of problem related to the river health. That is the core issues and concern because it may vary from place to place and river to river. Then planning different phases of treatment, assessment of catchment and valley area biophysical properties, focus on ridge to valley approach, treatment from upper ridge to lower valley, and promote measures for cleaning ghats, rivers and tributaries, rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge, recharge wells, injection wells, tanks, tree planting, and illegal logging in forest area. So survey of the river sites and measurement and preparation of detailed project report. That is another important area. This includes technical and financial. Prioritization of measurement and implementation and monitoring of the implementation and documentation. Then we have to always review and consult each other for the success. And river conservation and revision is really very important. The need of the hour is environmentally sustainable development of natural water resource, that is springs, river, groundwater. Environmental flow concept helps us in deciding the sustainable limits to river water resource development. Localized river rejuvenation, definitely it is a cost effective, and more importantly, local water management, harvesting and recharging groundwater can only be done through community participation. The planners and policy makers should necessarily integrate the concept of environmental flow with water resources development strategy. The government too realizes all these things. So then water conservation steps, what the Indian government has taken. So this we almost everybody knows that initially the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was passed in 1974 and again in 1978. The EP Act, the Environment Protection Act 1986, Hazardous Waste Management and Handling Rules 1989, National Environmental Tribunal Act 1995, National Environmental Appellate Authority Act 1987, no sorry 97, National Green Tribunal Act 2010, and National Water Framework Act 2016, which includes right to water for life, water is shared resource, river rejuvenation, reusage of water, water quality, flood mitigation and management, involvement of people in water management. So a lot of steps and actions are being taken, but it is not sufficient for the entire GBM basin. So with this, my friends, I thank all of you for patience listening. And if you have any query or question, I will try my level best to give you the feedback or answer.
Thank you, Professor Sinha. Thank you very much. I have a question to start with, and I think after that I'll hand it over to my colleague Atre to take some more questions which may have come in. My question is that uh, in the case of the Ganga Brahmaputra rivers, which are both transboundary rivers, um, you as an expert looking at it holistically, as you so wonderfully explained in your lecture, what do you think is the institutional mechanism needed with our neighboring countries in the basin, so that we can have better coordination towards actually implementing a basin approach to conservation and of our shared riverine basin and the riverine ecosystem?
Yes. Look, for the transboundary uh, approach between the two countries, first we need clarity the status of rivers. What is the actual because data sharing is also a very big issue, and we have not been able to get proper and required data exchange between the two countries. I also tried my level best, very at a small level, with Nepal way back 1995, and also with Bangladesh. So some institution should be there. The at least India, Nepal, Bangladesh, they can form a group of experts, and also it should be institutionalized and given some kind of uh, freedom, so that people can visit, come and go and see what is the exact situation, and how best, because we need at this level, I mean the GBM or under these three countries, I think the model of foreign countries may not be very successful, because our situation is completely different. We have to feed such a vast population, and also we have to protect our natural resources. So that way, Nepal's role is very important. So for flood control and the flow, and ensuring flow in lean season is concerned. So both India and Nepal can interfere near the foothill of Himalayas, where we can construct some reservoir or storage, and also that reservoir and storage may be helpful for hydropower, but at the same time, we need to see the minimum damage to the local people and maximum benefit for agriculture and all these areas. Because only then the any two country can, because it should always be give and take. And at the same time, we have to ensure that Nepal gets benefit. Only they will allow us to construct, or they will agree to construct some kind of reservoir there, because when they construct, there will be some inundation. But at the same time, if they get a lot of irrigation water, or for in terms of energy, then probably it will be economical and helpful for Nepal, and that will be helpful for India and Bangladesh also. And friend, I raised this issue way back 1997 in Bangladesh, when I got this one opportunity to discuss all these issues. And I said, only India and Bangladesh will not succeed unless we take into account the Nepal. As I told you, that it is not the issue of sharing of water, it is the issue of availability of water. So to ensure availability of water, Nepal's role is very important. So far, Ganga Basin is concerned. Brahmaputra, we have not, interrupted the Brahmaputra flow, and China has already constructed the three dams on so many other dams there, and they are also trying to take out Brahmaputra water, or the Yarlung Sangpo water, through Tibet to China. So definitely that will be very serious. That should be a very serious concern for all of us. Then the flow of Brahmaputra will decline, and definitely it will affect both India and Bangladesh. Probably maybe Bangladesh will be more affected. So similarly, we need at least these three countries, maybe Bhutan also can play some role in Brahmaputra Basin, and positive role. So for that, we need some kind of institution with political commitment, at the same time expertise, and our own people can play role. I think if we talk about Australia, or talk about USA, or talk about the European country, probably it might not be helpful for us. So somehow or other, even our local knowledge, indigenous knowledge, the wisdom of local people, very important in conserving the river, saving the river, rejuvenating the river. But unfortunate part is that we so-called very highly literate and qualified people, We don't interact with the common people in the villages. So my concern is still we have time. Otherwise, a time will come soon when all those wisdom and indigenous knowledge will vanish from the villages also. So that is also one aspect which is very important. What actually the local people wants, how they have survived, because you see, unless until they had ensured livelihood, why they have gone to the flood prone area and the flood area, why they settled there. This means they had learned to live with the floods. What we did, we interfered without taking them into confidence, without considering their indigenous knowledge and wisdom, and result is before us that more and more damage we have created to the local for the local people than to creating some facilities and infrastructure and railways and roadways or something like that. So these are my concern, that local people must be taken into account and confidence, both in all the three countries, four countries, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh. That will be helpful. And initiative may be taken at the government level, central government level. But at the same time, like NGOs and the educational institutions, they can also play some role. They can have some collaboration with each other. And they can start maybe some program, some small level program, and if we succeed, then we can show the government, look, this way we can proceed further. So this is very important.
Yeah,
मेरा ये
thank
कहना
you.
है कि हम खुद अपने पर भरोसा रखें, हम अपने पर भरोसा रखेंगे तभी हम इसको कर सकेंगे. हम किसी दूसरे के कंधे पर रख करके नहीं काम कर सकते हैं. दूसरे के नॉलेज से हम यहाँ उसको हमें अगर चाहेंगे यूज करना तो शायद बहुत सक्सेस नहीं मिलेगा.
बिल्कुल सही बात, बिल्कुल नहीं. We are totally in agreement with you. I think you highlighted the need for an institutional level cooperation, from data sharing to exchange of scientific information to planning
Yes,
to implementation, right at the top level, but also include the communities who are on the
yes,
ground near the rivers, at the rivers.
yes.
It is very important, I think. Yes,
Because
absolutely.
they are the sufferer and they will be beneficiary in the first step. So they will come forward. But unfortunate part is that the high level of government officials and politicians, they don't interact with them. So that can be done through NGOs and through some educational institutions and some other organizations.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You'll be glad to know that this Nadi initiative, of which you are giving this lecture, is also a step forward by us in that regard. Basically, knowledge dissemination and involving communities, but also trying to act as a bridge with policymakers. And I think the role of scientific community and the experts like you, who have a overall view, scientific viewpoint of this, it becomes very important. I think that is the common binding factor, which can, and the traditional knowledge, of course.
Yes, yes.
That also becomes very important. I think. Thank you so much. I think there are a few more questions from my colleagues, and time is running short. So I'll hand it over back to my Atri. But I look forward to be in touch with you, Professor.
Okay, no problem. Welcome always. Mm.
Thank you, sir. We have two questions. The first question is the Ganga River has a religious significance for the people of India, but still there is how there exists a paradox that when it comes to taking care of the river, that we do not like it's not our responsibility that we are supposed to be taking care of the river. So how can we encourage them to be involved in a basin rejuvenation process, not just river? Because if we rejuvenate the river, we are rejuvenating the basin. So how can we encourage them to make them realize that this is our river and we need to take care of it also?
Yes, definitely. I agree that this is a big paradox that on one hand, We treat river water as a water, especially Ganga water, the water of heaven, and religiously we worship the river. But on other hand, the same people, same person, they throw all garbages, solid waste, liquid, everything, and also they misuse the river like anything. So here is the role that we should, I think, somehow or other, our school education, there must be some kind of syllabi or some kind of teaching to the school students, because those young children, if they get aware and educated, they will talk to their parents, their guardians, and also when they will become tomorrow the leader of society, they will have in their mind. So unfortunate part is that we don't have any kind of curriculum in the school education. So far rivers are concerned, local rivers are concerned, how they should respect the river. And at the same time, you see even Puranas, the Vedas, and all kinds of our mythological books also, so many things have been said about Ganga, and there are many prohibitions. People should not do all these things, but still people are doing. So, where is the fault? I think there is a need of creating awareness, and there is a need of education among the society. And again, I am coming. Here is the role of NGOs and educational institutions in different parts of their areas. They can create awareness among the people, and they should tell them how it is harming their health, how it is harming their productivity, their agriculture, and all that. So there is not easy solution, because throughout the country, right from Himalayas to Bay of Bengal, people are misusing our river system, knowing well that it is a very sacred river, but our actions are not showing like that. So for that, what only act, only law will not have much impact unless until we go to them, make them aware, make them educated, maybe with some local language, some booklets also. We can write in local languages and distribute among the school children, and also we can talk to some local social leaders, religious leaders who can help us. Because only scientific intervention and political intervention will not serve the purpose. Social intervention is also very much important.
Thank you, sir. So, another question, and this is the last question. The climate change crisis has been affecting the flora of the basin. Is there a way that the situation can be controlled, keeping in mind the ever changing circumstances?
Yes, yes. Climate change is probably the biggest threat humanity is facing throughout the world, and we are not above that. So, climate change again. Why this is happening? Because we have denuded entire forest cover of Himalayas. Can you imagine? And we need to again create. We cannot create forest, but we can create green cover. That will be one aspect. At the same time, entire floodplains of the rivers, which used to be full of plants like soil binding plants, the grasses and some sacrums, trees, all have been cut because the population pressure is there, and they are doing all kinds of agriculture to the water line of the river. So Floodplains, we are using tractors, and definitely all these things are creating sediments, and all rivers are receiving those sediments. So this kind of thing, climate change cannot be controlled in one day, but everybody has to take some initiative, some steps, because even simple example I am giving you, that can we use electricity only what is required? Even in classroom, last student should switch off all the switches in the classroom. Probably nobody does it. We were told right from our student days in Patna University and Patna Science, especially Patna Science College, and still today, that practice is with me, that I cannot leave anything on when nobody is there to use that. So why? So in this way we can save energy. Now we can have solar energy. It is government is promoting, but still we have not succeeded much. So renewable energy and other sources like wind energy and solar energy, this will help us in reducing the thermal power consumption, and it will reduce the naturally heat, we control heat, and that is the biggest challenge before us. At the same time, as with the increase in science and technology level, our life quality of life is increasing, and quality of life means more and more consumption of everything. Water, can we use one bucket of water for bathing, two buckets of water for bathing? Very few people are doing like that, because people don't understand whether this water is going to be available for our other brothers of today's and future generation. So this way we have to reduce, recycle, and all those such natural resources which are affecting the climate. So that is the only way, because not only in basin, because Himalaya itself is suffering a lot. The glaciers are reducing, they are drying up. What will happen? So that way, again, it needs awareness and education among the common mass, especially the school children, younger generation. Everybody must realize first that do we need this much consumption?
Thank you, sir. That was, I think the need for awareness is what is the highlight of the day, and everything depends on how aware we are about our current situations and our changing circumstances. So, thank you, sir,
Yes,
for.
and at the same time, we should have some kind of monitoring mechanism. When we are creating awareness, we are going to the people, we are educating. Can we monitor sometime whether there is an impact on people? That will give us some confidence.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for the lecture, and I hope that we become more aware in our near future about the importance of these resources. And thank you for joining us today, sir. And I would now like to hand over the thing to sir for his closing remarks, please.
Okay.
Thank you. I have the singular pleasure to thank you, Professor Sinha, and looking forward to sometime meeting you in person. Just wanted to let you know that also our viewers that the Asian Confluence will be organizing uh, in as is possible due to the pandemic in the coming months, slated for April or May, our next Nadi conference, which will be a GBM conference with policymakers and practitioners and NGOs and academia from all the countries in the GBM, uh, and try to create some kind of a conducive atmosphere for sharing of knowledge and experiences, and charting out. So we look forward to being in touch with you as we plan
Okay.
that, and inviting you over for that also.
So
Thank
that
you.
will be great. That will be great, and I look forward on such occasion to meet
Thank you.
people, because earlier I had get opportunities at several places, but this pandemic has stopped everything.
I
We
know.
all are confined to our home only. So let us wish and hope that things
Yes.
will improve and we will join and we will
Yes.
have face to face interaction. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Dutta.
Professor.